This is Jablam Hockey with your hosts, Peter Wojcicki and Paul Swinbeck. Welcome to Jablam Hockey, folks. I'm your host, Peter Wojcicki. You can find me on Twitter at Russian98, and I am with
Paul Swambag. You can find me at Swambag, ZWAMBAG. How's it going, everybody? Peter, what's up?
Hockey is going on. I love it. Some teams might be kicked out. Of course, the Flames, as we're recording this on Thursday, April 20th, the Flames are the first team eliminated with a sweep by the Ducks. I felt bad because it looked like Game 3. I don't know. The Flames maybe should have had that one. That one goal looked like it was a high stick. I don't know. It was iffy. So,
they just didn't show up.
Yeah, Elliott wasn't very good. Gaudreau was fairly invisible. I thought Kachuk was going to step up a little bit, but again, he's a rookie. Can't put too much on his shoulders. But I thought I was going to see a little bit more out of him. But Monahan played pretty good.
Yep, he was probably the only Flame that played pretty good.
Yeah. I don't know. It just sucks. Sucks for the Flames. Sucks for their fans. Versteeg was pretty good too, I don't know. Versteeg looked good. And that's not saying too much, right? When you don't expect a guy like Versteeg to be one of your best players.
Yeah, so. And we're 1-0 so far with our playoff picks.
Yeah?
We both nailed Anaheim, yeah.
Yeah, I think we both said Ducks in 5 games, right? So.
Yeah, I don't think we picked any sweeps. It's kind of tough to pick sweeps.
Yeah, it is. You don't expect them to happen that easily. Yeah. All right, well, what do we have this episode? We are going to be team ISOing the Toronto Maple Leafs with special guest Anthony Petrelli. We also have, of course, our playoff matchups talk, and we're going to be talking about series we really like so far, maybe some underrated players, and a little bit of all the series. And we'll finish up with some Jablam Junior Hockey update. But first, trending now. A lot of things going on in the league, Paul? But what I like to talk about is awards. And today they announced the Calder nominations, and they were Werenski, Laine, and Matthews. Who called this, Paul?
Neither of us. We got a mixture.
Oh, what did I call? I thought
you put Murray. You put Murray third.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I do remember you saying Werenski fourth, but only top 3, Peter. Only top 3.
Close. And what were your picks, Paul?
Matthews, Murray, Werenski. So Murray got us on both sides.
Yeah, but I told you that I did feel that the NHL wouldn't have picked him, right? Just because he was there for the Penguins last year. I think that did hurt him with the Calder nom, and that's not fair to him, right?
No, because look at Panarin. They gave it to Panarin, no problem.
So I don't know. It's a little not fair, but well. And so I guess we're both thinking Matthews is probably going to win this, right?
Yeah.
What was was there another nomination yesterday?
Yeah, the Selke Trophy finalists were unveiled. Patrice Bergeron, Ryan Kessler, and Mikko Koivu.
And what did I say?
Kessler, Koivu, Bergeron. Nailed it.
Boom! Oh, yeah. And, I think it was pretty easy to pick those ones. I think they were all right. Like I said, I look at penalty killing, and I'm kind of surprised that the NHL was very identical with me, because I usually pick guys that are more penalty killing guys, but all 3 were. They're very good players on 5-on-5 as well and put up a fair bit of points, but they're also very good penalty killers. So they all deserve the award.
I had Backlund as my number 3, and he had a pretty good first half, and he kind of slowed down in the second half. So
yeah,
I can see why they put Bergeron instead.
Yeah, I think I saw something on Twitter. Some Flames fans were saying we deserve 3 guys for the Selke or something like that, and it was like Backlund for a league, and can't remember who else.
That's ridiculous.
All right, let's move on from the awards. We'll talk more about them probably next week as more will come out, right, Paul?
Yeah, every single day there's one going to be out, and yeah, so next week we'll definitely have more to talk about.
Yep. but for Canucks news and fans, they're probably not too happy about this, but it looks like Nikita Triamkin is going back to Russia. I think Philip Larson as well. But it sounded like Nikita was not happy about his ice time, and he also kind of wants to go and play back home for him, right? So he signs a 2-year contract, back with the KHL. It sucks because he was one of the few bright spots for the Canucks season, I think, this year. A good young defenseman who plays fairly physical, and he has a bit of upside in all areas of the ice. So
yeah, I don't think it's gonna hurt them that much. Like I think it would be nice for them to develop him in Vancouver, but by all means develop him over at the KHL. It's not going to hurt his game playing in the KHL. It's still playing against men, so I don't think it's going to be that big of an effect. And when he comes back in a year or two, he is going to be developed. Like it's not going to stunt his development. So I think it's okay, and he's going to be happier being in the KHL. So
yeah, he'll get more ice time and everything. And look what happened with other guys, even that went there and came back, like a Yager or even a Radulov as recently. And he's probably been the best forward for the Canadians. So
yeah, and it's going to open up the door for the Canucks for Ole Julevi to maybe make the team, Andre Pedin, Jordan Subban, Guillaume Brisebois. Like there's a lot of young talent in Vancouver, and maybe that opens the door in training camp for a good battle. So I don't see an issue with it.
Yeah, I think it might be actually a good thing for the Canucks to get some more ice time for their other younger defensemen.
Exactly.
But what's going on with this Sharks and Oilers series? Did you hear this story, Paul? That the Oilers go to San Jose for 3 and 4, and both times they go for their team practice. I guess it was the day on their off day, and the lights are out.
Like what?
Yeah, they left the lights off. I think it sounds kind of intentional because it didn't happen just one time. It happened twice. But now in Edmonton, apparently today, the Sharks go for their practice, and the ice is like wet. Like there's many parts of the ice that are just very wet, and it's hard to skate through. So I don't know. I don't like this. It seems like, to me, this isn't gamesmanship. I'd file a complaint if I was one of the GMs of these teams, especially at least the Oilers, because it happened to them first. But now it seems like they're getting back at them. I don't know. This isn't fair. You're not getting the best out of these players if they can't even do a full practice.
I fault more the Sharks than the Oilers. The Oilers, it could just be it could be a bad machine. Like the Zamboni could be junk, and it shouldn't be. Like by all means, and it might be the Zamboni guy being a jerk. But I think on the San Jose side, I think that's the whole team. That's the whole building. Like, how do you not know that the Oilers are supposed to be in the building and somebody go, "Oh, we have the lights off"? Like, yeah, I think that's a little fishy.
Yeah, somebody at the SAP Center better get fired for this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't like this kind of gamesmanship. You can do something else, but this just seems a little wrong. All right. What else? Paul, you called it, I guess, right? The Sabres fired Tim Murray and Dan Bylsma.
Yeah, we had the fire sale last week, and when we were coming up with the list before we went on air, before we recorded, I was like, what about Tim Murray and Dan Bylsma? And you're like, no, it hasn't been announced yet. I think it's kind of rumored. And I was like, what? I thought it was announced. So
yeah,
I had an omen a week too early.
So, hey, a lot of other guys are being let go and fired. So I guess there's more openings here. But for the Sabres, I hear a lot of weird rumors, and they're talking about like ex-Sabres and stuff like that, like Phil Housley, Chris Drury. I've even heard like Bill Guerin's name. So it's crazy. I guess there's some guys like a Dean Lombardi maybe being named to go there as a GM or whatever, but a lot of players as well. And I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, especially when you're rebuilding. You might want more of a veteran coach. I don't know. It's tough. But I'm hearing especially a lot of players too, like even Craig Conroy. So I don't know. I don't know if I've never been a big fan of players being a part of like even especially coaching roles.
Well, that's the way the league is going. Like, look at Doug Waite and Rob
Hmm.
Blake in the general manager spot, and Luke Robitaille in the president spot. Like, it's all ex players now, and I agree. I'm not a big fan of it. There's guys that have been doing it for years and years and slugging through the mess of terrible hockey teams,
Yeah.
where these vet players don't understand that. They don't understand the bad times.
Yeah.
The Pagulas have got something messed up going on in Buffalo. I think they've been through like 5 different coaches. They've owned the teams, the Sabres and the Bills, for 4 or 5 years now, and
Yeah.
5 different coaches and 2 different GMs for each. Like, they don't stick with it. And there was a tweet out from All the Kings Men podcast. We had him on the podcast
Hmm.
when we team ISO'd the Kings, and he showed the first 3 seasons of Lombardi being GM, and they were awful. They were terrible, and they stuck it
Yeah.
out, and he ended up winning a cup. Like, there's going to be some bad times, and the next group of guys that come in, there's going to be tough times. Like, you gotta let them build. You gotta let them build a team. So hopefully they have a little more patience with whoever they bring in.
Yeah. That's why I was telling you last week. I was shocked at the rumor. I think both Murray and Bilesma are solid at their jobs. You just have to give them some time. So, very odd, in my opinion. And last but not least, did you see the Patrick Kane's new Gatorade commercial?
I have seen it, and boom is all I gotta say. Boom.
All right. So again, as per usual, we will post this on Jablam Hockey under game notes. All of our trending nows. We're gonna post this Gatorade Flow new commercial video with Patrick Kane, who apparently can score from like half the center of the ice easily because he drank some Gatorade Flow. And I'm hoping he's drinking this tonight as they're on the brink of elimination against these Predators.
I don't think it's gonna happen. I think the Preds have got locked up.
Um, is it just bad timing or what? Like, I hope with this commercial dropping like in the last few days that this will turn around the Hawks 3-0 deficit in this series against the Predators. I don't know. And to me, it's bad timing. But if they do come back, I'm buying like a gallon of Gatorade.
Oh, I'm buying stocks in Gatorade Flow. I think what I think happened was they made the commercial sometime when Patrick Kane had some time off, maybe in their bye week, and they didn't hit their deadline of playoff time. Because, we're both in television. Deadlines don't really get hit all the time.
Yeah.
And they missed it, and then they got finalized, and they probably argued over the next couple days. And like, oh, once Chicago wins a game, we'll put it out and be like, this is why they won the game, Patrick Kane. Well, now they're down 3-0, and they're like, we spent all this money, we have to put it out. Like, there's a lot of money put into this commercial, and a lot of time and effort and people's jobs, and we got to put it out. And they're like, well, this is the worst time, but yep, we guess we have to. Let's try and hide it underneath all the playoff hockey stuff. But yeah, I think poor timing by Gatorade.
All right, time for this week's segment of Team ISO. We are Team ISOing the Toronto Maple Leafs this week. Oh yeah. And of course, it's where we talk more about detail about one specific team. Last year, you got Paul and my opinion. This year, we're going out there and getting better analysis and a better perspective. And our guest this week is Anthony Petrelli. You can follow him on Twitter at A Petrelli, APETRIELLI. And Anthony is a writer at Maple Leafs Hot Stove. Welcome to the show, Anthony.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Perfect. And again, we will tweet that out at Jablam Hockey and, of course, on our Twitters as well. So, how do you like how the kids are playing so far in this series versus the Caps?
Depends which kids we talk about. I think Matthews and Nylander have been everything you could pretty much ask for at their phase. I've been writing about it a little bit throughout the playoffs. I think Marner has struggled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was going to ask about that later, but yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to get into it too much now, but I really believe that the grind of the season, I've been beating it for a few weeks now, but he's the only one of the kids that didn't play pro hockey last year.
Yeah, it's taking a toll on him a bit.
Yeah, and I know you play a lot of games in junior, but it's not the same. going to Sudbury and winning 8-2 on a Tuesday, it's not comparable to the NHL grind. I think it's caught up to him a little bit, but the kids look good, generally speaking.
Well, let's get into a little bit about then Marner. He was the star that was stirring the drink on that line, right, with JVR and Bozak. They've had career years pretty much because of Marner, right? And now it's kind of the opposite, where Bozak is kind of driving that line a little bit more, and JVR chipping in, and Marner's the third man on that line.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like, it's funny because Marner has 4 points in 4 games. Like, the stats look okay at the top. He's the worst possession forward on the team so far in the playoffs. Yeah, and it shows. Like, he doesn't have legs. Like, Bozak looks like a veteran who realizes you don't get that many kicks at the can. Yeah, and he's had some shifts where he looks like a man possessed, and then I think JVR has always been good in the playoffs. I've had my thoughts about him, during the regular season, particularly in the dog days of it, but
on and off.
Kudos to him because he's consistently. I thought he was probably the Leafs' second best player to Kessel in the Boston series. Yeah, and he was good for the Leafs down the stretch here, and I think he's been good so far too in the playoffs.
And speaking about other people that are kind of stepped it up in the playoffs, and I think the veterans on the back end have really stepped up. Like Polak did before he got injured. Hunwick has stepped up a little bit, and specifically Jake Gardiner. And did he not step up and play a little better last time too? Versus the Bruins, I think.
He was fantastic against the Bruins. He was actually healthy scratch the first game of that series. Yeah. And then had 5 points in 6 games the rest of the way. And he looks awesome. When you play over 40 minutes in a game, you're doing something right. Yeah. Like, he escapes danger. I think that's his big thing. He beats forechecks. He is able to break it out. I think him and Riley stand out a little bit more on the Leafs defense because the rest of them are pretty much that, and they're just not capable of making plays, right? Like they're getting the puck and it's just off the glass. So then Gardiner and Riley are consistently holding it, making something happen. Even if they mess up once in a while, they're generally doing those things to push the puck forward cleanly to give them a chance to score.
Yeah. You're always kind of wary with Jake and what he likes to do with the puck. I even think Babcock's mentioned it. Just let him do his own thing, kind of thing. Yeah. So it's odd because during the season, it's just like he has stretches where he's always making the wrong move, and then he has stretches where he's always making the right move. And I guess in the playoffs, it just comes together a little bit better, I guess.
Yeah, maybe in the playoffs, it's a little more intense and a little less time to freely think because you're always just on the go, and sometimes that happens. And in the playoff or in the regular season, when he usually makes a mistake, it's almost like his mind wanders or he gets bored or something, and and then he tries to do something. You're like, what? Yeah, but not so much in the playoffs.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the other defenseman. Why does it seem like Babcock's a little tentative to play Carrick on the back end more? I don't know. It just seems like his minutes have really dropped. And I think Carrick is trying to be a little bit more aggressive. And as the minutes go on in the playoffs, the refs aren't calling many penalties. So why not play Carrick a little bit more?
I like Carrick. I've wondered that myself. He's a good player. Like, he makes things happen. He's surprisingly tough. Yeah. For his size, like he's always in there mixing up with guys. I do think a large part of it is, and you kind of alluded to it, is he just doesn't play any special teams whatsoever. Yeah. Right. And you look, and his 5-on-5 ice time doesn't trail too much behind. I mean, it does. He's just playing third pairing 5-on-5 minutes, which is kind of what you'd have him as if you were to write out the lineup, right? But then the fact that he plays like 0 special teams impacts his ice time significantly. Even if he was just mixing in shifts on the penalty kill, similar to Martin Marinson, you'd see it impact his ice time, but he doesn't see any. And I think that's the biggest thing. But yeah, once in a while you look and you see like the 13, 14 beside his name, and you're like, I think he could play 4 or 5 more minutes than that.
Yeah,
But
I'm hoping maybe in the future he might get some power play time, because I still think he has more of an offensive upside. But on the other side, then there's Zaitsev. He just hasn't really looked very good, especially the beginning of game 3 and 4. Is it 100% maybe still from the concussion? He's not fully there, or is it just like a week or 2 off from hockey, or is it just playoffs and he's facing Ovechkin and Backstrom? What is it?
I don't want to cop out and say it's a bit of everything, although I do think that's a large part of it. But I think a lot of it is just the injury return. Like he doesn't look himself. He doesn't look comfortable. I think part of it is overrated is a strong word, but people probably think, or at least thought at one point, that he's better than he is. Like he's a second pairing D-man. Like he's probably a number 4, if we're being honest, and he's playing on the top pairing, and he has Alex Ovechkin coming down his wing for the majority of the time because he's on the right side. Ovechkin's playing his off wing. That's the guy he's primarily dealing with. Ovechkin's like 250 pounds and still a beast, and Zaitsev's returning from a concussion and missed some time. He doesn't look as confident with the puck. Like the puck is not. He's not holding it anymore.
Yeah.
So
hopefully. Go ahead.
If I was going to pick one thing, I'd say it's the injury, but I also think he's probably just maybe a little overmatched in that line matchup as well.
Yeah, his first foray into the postseason, and it's against the juggernaut that it is the Capitals in their first line. We mentioned Nylander and Matthews. What do you like specifically about their game so far in the playoffs?
2 completely different styles, I think. Matthews is just the full game. Like Kuznetsov is a stud, and he's going head to head against him, and I think he's coming out ahead so far.
Oh yeah,
and you don't get by on that as a center if you're just good on either end of the ice. Like you have to bring it all over the ice to do that. You can kind of hide from certain things if you're on the wing, especially in the D zone. But when you're at center, there's nowhere to hide. So for Matthews, like he's bringing it all over the ice, I think. And I know some people, even the broadcast has joked about some of the ways he's looked blocking shots and whatever. But I think that genuinely has an impact on the team when they see him. Like we did not see him block shots like this during the regular season.
Yeah.
And he's gone out of his way more than a few times to put a body on guys, put his body on the puck, go through guys. He's got a bit of an edge to his game. Offensively, he's dynamic. Like he scores every which way. So him is just the all-around game going up against another elite player in the league. For Nylander, what's really impressed me is he's still able to hold on to the puck so much in the playoffs. I didn't think that he would be, scared or back down or too soft. I had a lot of people message me in the last month thinking he would be. Yeah. I didn't think that he'd play like that because I think he's an elite player. But I wasn't sure how much he would struggle to find space. Usually talented guys take a few playoffs to have, understand what they can and can't do with the puck, and they're playing, one of the best teams in the league, and that's a quick learning curve, but the puck's always on a stick. Yep. He's able to create something out of nothing. He gains the zone easily. He has a great shot. His speed is backing off guys, so just with the puck, he's been so impressive.
Yep. Somehow there's not much time and space, but he's still finding it. So he's been pretty solid. So that game last night was pretty wild. Did you think the Leafs were kind of down and out already again with the 2-0 and the 3-1 leads?
No, like I thought at 4-1 it might be done. But when they're only a goal away, they're they're so explosive that, like, you see, right? Like they got a few bounces on those goals, and all of a sudden, like Washington knew. I thought that was a poor challenge on the Schmidt goal, but
Yeah.
I was also watching that and thinking to myself, like, Trotz knows, like, he does not want these guys this close. Like, he was trying to get the 3-goal lead back up. He knew that 2 wasn't safe.
Yeah.
And I kind of laughed when he challenged it. I didn't think it was going to go through, but I thought that actually just spoke volumes to, kind of what he thought of the Leafs. If you've ever been in that situation before and you think you're the better team, you kind of just shrug and go, "That's all right. Still got enough cushion here." But
Yeah.
that was not the case there.
Yeah, it was kind of weird too, because the earlier goal, I can't remember, but Babcock didn't challenge, and it looked like there was more goaltender contact there with the Capitals and Anderson, right? When can't remember who went through the crease, right?
Backstrom on the Oshie goal.
Yeah, that seemed like there was way more contact than the other one, and I would have challenged the first one first, way more than the second one. So it was very odd with how it went. So they got that goal, and then the Leafs kind of got the other goal, right? So I guess it kind of worked both ways.
Yeah, I also feel like Babcock might, like, someone's got to start keeping track of this, but Babcock might have had the worst challenge percentage in the league this year.
Yeah,
and
it was pretty bad.
So maybe that's in his head a little bit too.
Yeah, maybe. But what'd you think about Anderson's game then last night?
I think I didn't think he was terrible, and I didn't think he was bad. Like, you can kind of look and you're like, well, he scored 5. Like, he's got to make a save. First goal is, 3 guys to the net, rebound. Ovechkin one-timer bomb. Even the second Oshie goal, which I think was maybe questionable for a lot of Leaf fans.
Yeah.
Like, I think people forget Oshie is the best one-on-one goalie player in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
one of the best,
he's the best shootout player in the league. Like, if you were going to do shootout right now, you need one shooter. You pulled every team. I think every team picks Oshie.
I'd pick TJ Sochi for sure.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, did he make Anderson look bad? Yeah, he did. Mm-hmm. But, like, he does it to everybody. Like, everyone knows it's coming, and he still does it.
Yeah.
So I can't really fault him a ton. Like, I think he needs to play better, Anderson, than, I bet you he'd probably still want that game back. I bet you he'd still want large chunks of game 1 back.
Yeah.
I think he'll need to be better to advance, but also Holtby has, like, he's been better than Holtby so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if that's saying much, but he's been better than him.
Paul, did you want to ask about any prospects?
I want to know who's left in the prospect cupboard. Like, you guys have talked Matthews, Nylander, Marner. There's Brown, Zaitsev, Hyman, Lavo, Kapanen. Is Soshnikov no longer a rookie this year? Who's left in that prospect cupboard?
I think they actually do have a few interesting players to come, a few guys to keep an eye on. So I'll just kind of go by draft in my head, and 3 of them are from last year, and it gets forgotten, but they had, like, I want to say 11 picks last year in the draft. Like, they drafted a ton of guys. Yeah. So are there, Nylander, Matthews, Marner in there? No, but when you throw enough to the wall, that's the game the Leafs are playing. And 3 guys kind of stick out early. The Yegor Korshkov, who's in the KHL. They drafted him last year in the 2nd round. It kind of raised some eyebrows at the time. He was a year older, and his numbers weren't lights out by any means. But I was actually looking at it this week. So he had 19 points in 36 games in the KHL this year as a 20-year-old. Mm-hmm. And he's 6'4". Oh. And a few different models have that at around a third line production, a third line player, and it translating over to NHL. And hey, if the Leafs are drafting 6'4" players that can play in the top 9 in the second round to go, to just keep adding to that pipeline of guys that they have established on the team, I think that's impressive. I think Adam Brooks is another guy to keep an eye on, and I think both of the picks actually speak to a bit of a trend that's going on, not only with the Leafs but with the league, where teams are starting to draft guys that are a year older. You get the extra year. Guys develop differently. I think there's a bit of a market developing there, and Brooks was another one that they drafted older, and then last year, the year that they drafted him, he had 120 points in 72 games, and then this year he followed it up with 130 and 66. And I think he's small. I think you get two different schools of thoughts on him. I've seen some guys say this guy is going to walk right into the NHL and be a third line center. To that, I'm a little skeptical, to say the least. And then you have some who think, he's on the smaller side and he's ripping up the dub, but he's way older than everybody else, so it's not that impressive. But I think at minimum he's given himself a good shot to be in the conversation, and he's in an organization that is going to give him an opportunity to do it. As a young, small skilled guy, I don't think the Leafs are going to get out of the way of a player like that. But you could probably think of a few off the top of your head that it would be much harder to crack their NHL team as a small skilled player. And then a lot of Leaf fans probably took a good look at Carl Grundstrom in the World Juniors this year. And, he's another one he's playing in Europe, and I don't think these guys across the pond get nearly the attention or, like if in the Swedish Elite League and the KHL, they're a little bit below the AHL, but every time we have a young kid that's like 19 playing in the AHL, we hear about it. Like Alex Nylander's in the A, we hear about it. Oh, didn't have the greatest year, but people give him that benefit of the doubt. Like he's in the A, he's playing in a man's league. He's learning to adjust, blah blah blah. But when all these kids do it across the pond, they don't get that headline or benefit of the doubt. And he's another one. Like he had 14 goals in 45 games in the Swedish Elite League, in the top men's league, and he's 19.
Yep, he does look pretty good.
So those are three players off the top of my head. Obviously, Jeremy Bracco is another one. Fans got a good look at in the World Juniors. He's skilled, and I think skating will be his issue. But if he can keep up to the pace, he's got the talents to play in the league. So he's got to work on the skating. And the other thing, and don't want to veer too much off topic, but so we saw Buffalo today fired Murray and Bylsma.
Yep.
And they had 3 guys play. I saw someone tweet this. They had 3 guys that were 19 played in the AHL. Zemgus Girgensson, Risto Ristolainen, and now Alex Nylander.
Yeah.
And I'd argue all 3 of them haven't probably developed to the level that fans would be hoping so. I think Ristolainen has the nice point totals, so sometimes he just gets a pass at a cursory glance when people look and go, oh, he had 45 points this year.
Yeah.
But, the over half of them came on the power play, and he has the most power play time on the team, so I think it's a little misleading. But the larger point to that is the Leafs have a really good development program.
Much better than it used to be, that's for sure.
Well,
all right.
And they have the benefit of they have Matthews, Nylander, Marner, the guys that are no longer going to be rookies next year, and they can take their time with all these Jeremy Braccos and the other guys you named, and like a Nikita Krostelev. Like they can let them brew and develop, because there's no rush for talent anymore, because Matthews, Nylander, Marner definitely fills those voids.
Yeah, and if you do, and even more so when they get to the team, and Naz was honestly the one that had it the worst, but it was like Kadri came up and there was not much going on the NHL roster, so every game was a lightning rod for him.
Yeah.
And now if Matthews and Marner and Nylander, and like, you get a laugh when you're like writing about them every week, and like a guy has a poor week. Like, it took me like 3 games to be like, all right, Marner's not playing well.
Yeah.
But because I could just talk about Nylander, Matthews ripping it up. Like, how can you even bother talking about Marner at that point? Because the other guys are just looking so good. Whereas when Naz did it, he had a bad game or two. It was a whole story. And all these guys are now just going to come in, go play on a line with Matthews for a few weeks, go play on a line with Marner, with Nylander, whoever. It just makes their whole life so much easier. NHL facilities in the AHL, at least throwing a ton of money into development coaches, skills coaches, like the whole thing. So it's like the whole system just gives them such an advantage over other teams. So I hear what you're saying. They're, probably not going to draft another Marner, Nylander, Matthews coming out of the draft in a long time, but they're going to draft all these other guys with skill, and then they're just going to put their system to use.
All right. Before we go, Anthony, we will switch gears and go with those veterans. What do you think is the future with the Leafs and JVR and Bozak now, since the whole trend is going with the big 3 young kids? And
I think it's really interesting. I've debated it. I think the big thing is, what do they want to do with Nylander next year? I think that's the starting point. And by that, of course, I mean, do they want him to develop as a center? Because if they do, then I don't see how you can keep Bozak. Or are they happy with Nylander and Matthews together, which they look awesome right now? And do they just want to keep that train rolling and say, you know what, like, let's just play like 2 high-end players together and let them run up this league? And Babcock did that for a while with Zetterberg and Datsuk. He taught Todd McClellan that, who then went to San Jose and did it with Marlowe and Thornton. So I could see him doing that. Like, it's hard to watch them right now and be like, yeah, I want to break those guys up next year. But if they do want Nylander to develop as a center, then I think you kind of got to move Bozak. But if not, are they going to find a better center than Bozak at that money? Probably not, right? So in that case, you'd keep him. But I think JVR, I don't see how they'd keep him unless they think they can go really far next year and they just want to keep a good player and say, we don't care. If I was them, I'd probably claim Marinson off the Leafs. Just looking at it, like, relatively young defenseman, cheap, can take a shift. I'd be claiming as many defensemen as I can if I was them, and centers, and then just go from there.
All right. Well, that's it. Anthony, thanks for coming on the show. Again, we're going to tweet out your Twitter account at @Petrelli on Twitter. And thank you for coming on the show again, Anthony.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Playoff matchups, Paul. All right. What are your picks for best series so far? Who's your number 3? We have a top 3 list.
Number 3, I'm going to go, I think Edmonton, San Jose. The last game, it was a throwout. You could see it was just going to be a blowout, and the Oilers didn't show up for it. But I think it's probably the best late-night series. Like, Anaheim-Calgary was no fun to watch. So Calgary did not look like they even wanted to be there. But I'm going to go with the Oilers and Sharks as the number 3 pick.
Yeah, my number 2 was the Sharks and Oilers. It's been a great series. The last game was a blowout. Oilers weren't even in from it from day one. But the good thing is, it's showing that we know there's that explosive offense and experience that Sharks haven't really shown yet, and it did in Game 4, and we'll see more of it tonight, right? But the series has been great. The first 3 games were so tight. Both goaltenders are playing well, especially Talbot. And we haven't seen enough of McDavid yet so far. They're doing a pretty good job on covering him, and he's getting pretty feisty too. He's having a bit of that early Crosby thing in the playoffs, right? Where he's getting annoyed at all the contact he's getting, and it's maybe taking him off his game a bit. But I'm surprised. The Oilers, like, even second line, especially, again, like the first 2-3 games, they've been pretty good. RNH, Lucic, and of course Jordan Emberley. He's looked pretty good. So it's been a good series, and of course, the further the series goes, Thornton and Couture are looking better, and of course Burns is amazing.
Yeah,
and,
Burns in that 7-0. He was that was his kind of game. He loved it out there.
Him and Pavelski are playing very well for the Sharks. All right, and my number 3 is the Habs and Rangers series, and we both mentioned. Sorry.
Interesting that you're a fan of a goalie duel.
Yeah, it's still playoff hockey. If you're watching this series, it's so feisty. Every game is down to 1 goal. I think as we're recording this, I think they're going to the playoff overtime right now in Game 5 here. But every game is so close. Yes, there's so few goals, but the goaltending is just exceptional. How many big saves are Price and Lundqvist making? Not only on the first shot, but the second and the third opportunities as well. Oh my goodness. You could just make the top 10 highlights of the playoffs and just have Lundqvist and Price and their saves. They've been outstanding.
Yeah, one is they're both wanting to get to the big dance, and one's at kind of his peak performance, and the other one's kind of on the tail end of his career. So it's 2 guys that really want a cup.
Yeah, but Lundqvist is still playing exceptional. He might be past his prime a little bit. I still think he has a few more years in him, but he is playing exceptional, and it's gonna suck really bad for whoever doesn't make the second round, because both these goalies deserve it. But their offense, you know what? Kreider, I haven't seen anything of Mr. Chris Kreider. I'm happy about it because I'm not a fan of him drilling goalies all the time. But yeah, he hasn't done his usual game. Nash has played pretty good, and Zuccarello and a few of the others, they're playing pretty well. Jasper Fast is playing fast. So they've had some guys also stepping up like him. And of course the Habs with Radulov, he's been amazing.
Yeah,
Shea Weber's been sorry?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. He's really stepped up his game. And it's bothering me because I'm expecting Patches and Galchenyuk to do a little bit more. And I think Patches is trying. Galchenyuk is more in the middle. But even Shea Weber's playing well too for the Habs. So it's the series is very good, and yes, there hasn't been that many goals, but the goals that have been scored, like that one-hander by Radulov, amazing goals. Nash has made some great plays too. So there's still been some really spectacular goals and opportunities, but the goalies are stepping up as you'd expect.
Yeah.
Who's your number? Go ahead.
My number 2 is going to be the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Yeah, it's been 3-1, 4-1, but the Blue Jackets have been playing the Penguins hard. It's just the Penguins have been putting away the puck in the net. So it might be a little biased because I'm a Penguins fan, but I think it's still a really good series. 2 really well-matched teams that I think the scores are a little deceiving if you're just looking at box scores.
Maybe. But the Penguins just have too much offensive talent for me to put them high on how good the series is. They score in abundance with even so few great scoring chances. So that's why it's hard for me to say how good the series is when they're doing that. But Columbus seems like they're playing hard. They just, can't beat the Pens, especially keep up with the amount of offense that the Pens are producing. Bobrovsky's still been pretty good, but again, the Penguins are just a lot of deflections, a lot of rebounds, smart plays by the Penguins. They're like I said before, they're finishing on even the minute opportunities.
How about Brian Rust?
Yep.
5 goals now.
Yep.
In the series, that's impressive.
Rust and Gunsel.
Yeah. Been carrying our team.
Yeah, these guys are carrying. You'd expect the core, the main guys, but again, the main guys are still playing amazing. I don't know how many points Malkin has had in his career in the playoffs, but he's continuing it this year in the playoffs. And Kessel, he doesn't need to score all the time. He has a lot of skill that he can make beautiful passes as well. Did you see that kick pass that he made to, I think it was Gunsel, one of Gunsel's goals in like game 2 or something?
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
So beautiful. So, yeah, just way too much skill in that series, especially for the Pens. My number 1, and I'm guessing your number 1 as well, is the Caps and Leafs.
That is correct.
Go ahead, Paul. You talk about it first.
Going into the series, nobody thought this was going to be a good series. Everybody thought Washington was just going to come in and blow the doors off of Toronto and teach these young kids a lesson. And these kids are playing so good. So good. Mitch Marner's been off, like what Anthony said in our Team ISO, but they're just playing way better than what rookies should be playing in their first playoff matchup. And against the President Trophy team, I think they have the seed of doubt planted in the Capitals. And man, I really want to see them go on. I want the Leafs to win so bad. I'm not even a Leafs fan, and not because you're a Leafs fan, Peter. Just they deserve to go to the second round. I know Washington had a great regular season, but Toronto's playing so good.
Yeah, I think they could have easily had won any of these games. Maybe not so much last game. That brain gaff that they all made, that killer. That was killer. I don't know what Connor Brown was doing with the pass. He passed it right to him. And then I think it was, Burakovsky, he got up magically because the puck was like on his stick. And then he tried to do something, and then Connor Carrick came in, and he screwed up even more. And then the pass over, and then they scored. And, of course, Anderson wasn't ready. Whatever. But yes, the series has been good. And I'm more surprised at the Leafs defense. I think a lot of people think that the Leafs defense is not very good at all. If anything, maybe one of the worst in the league. But they have really stepped up. And I was really sad when Polak got injured because he's been playing solid hockey for at least a month and a half. He's been pretty good he was pretty good in the first 2 games, and then he went down. And it's great to have Zaitsev back, but I think they're rushing him a little bit because of the hole, and they don't want to play maybe Marchenko in that. But Gardiner has been outstanding. He stepped it up. Riley's played better, and even Hunwick, he's playing more minutes and he's playing better. So the Leafs defense has surprised me the most, actually. I don't know if they can keep it up in the series, and I think that might be a bit of the downfall. And I hope Zaitsev can be back to what he was in the mid-season, but it might be tough. But the rookies, again, their first playoff year, they're looking pretty good too. So not just the big 3, but even Hyman hustling hard as per usual in the corners, getting that puck to Matthews and Nylander. Browns look pretty good. So, yeah, it's exciting to watch. It's really exciting to watch. It's great to see the Leafs in the playoffs, but they're playing very well. And, oh, man, almost every single game has gone into overtime until the last game. And, it ended 5-4. It was still a fun game, exciting game, offensive game. So, yeah, this series has blown me away. Not only just being a Leaf fan, but compared to the other series, it's been exciting. Even the offense from the Capitals, they're exciting to watch as well. They've made some great plays. Anderson's looked very good, except for the last game. So it's been a great series.
And you haven't even mentioned your boy, Kasperi.
Oh my God, that game where he scored 2 goals. He's so fast. It seems odd, though, that all these rookies keep on playing pretty good, filling on the 4th line. I thought Shoshnikov was pretty good earlier in the season, and I'm like, Shoshnikov's pretty good. He might be better than a 4th line guy, but right now he's playing pretty good on the 4th line. Then they get Levo, and Levo's like, Levo's pretty good. He's going to be really good. Maybe they can move him up the lines. And then again, he gets injured, and now they put Kapanen in, and he's playing even better. I'm like, what's going on? Let's just keep on putting a new rookie on the 4th line, and they can just keep on excelling and getting better.
And that might be what they do. Like they got enough rookies that, like Anthony was talking about, that they could just keep developing these guys, and they don't have a star guy that's gonna look dumb on the 4th line that's in the prospect cupboard. So they can learn the game on the 4th line and not be out-dueled or not fit, right? So
Captain's playing well so far in that role, and I think for sure maybe next year he'll move up the ladder in the lineup. But even Lepsic, Brendan Lepsic, that's also playing for the Marlies, and Kirby Reichel, I still believe these two guys can easily get in maybe a top 9 role as well. So maybe next year you'll see them filling in in that 4th line role. On Martin's line, basically. That's his line. So, yeah, the Leafs, their future looks great. But right now, they're still looking good against the Capitals. And who knows what can still happen. The series is down to the best out of 3. So
And then you got the Western Conference where they're just not great hockey being played on one half of the ice. It's kind of disappointing.
The Hawks have been awful.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of tonight's game, but they finally showed up in Game 3, and they were pretty good, but still the Predators were better. They weren't at all showing up in the first 2 games. Just bad hockey. And we already mentioned the Flames and the Ducks. You can't expect too much out of the Flames. They're still a fairly young team, but they're still not a top contender at all. And when they're facing a team like the Ducks, who have a physical presence and a veteran presence, and young D that is very good at the same time, they're just overpowering them. And again, their D, I mentioned it even in one of my blogs, they're decimated with injuries, right?
Yeah.
Dupre is injured. Who else is injured? And then Fowler is injured. He's going to be out 3 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So you would think, there'd be a lot more room on the back end when you're in the corners against the Ducks, but there still isn't. They have still very good depth, and they're a very good team. So I don't know how far the Ducks are going to go. We'll see what happens if they face the Sharks or the Oilers, but they're in good position. So.
Yeah, their D is decimated. They're playing Corbinian and Holzer, your boy.
Yep. Holzer, as I said, I thought I'd see him in the series, and I don't know if he played every game in the series. I don't think so. I think it was more Montador and stuff. But Shea Theodore, he has looked very good.
Oh, he's such a good defenseman. He's going to be a stud for many, many years.
He has looked very good for them. Who haven't we mentioned so far in terms of series?
Minnesota, St. Louis.
St. Louis just looks very good overall.
Yeah.
And we still haven't seen Tarasenko much. They're covering him. They're doing a good job of covering him. And we're going to talk soon about underrated players. And one of them almost made my list. And that would have been Charlie Coyle. Because he's good at covering some guys like a Tarasenko and still maybe chipping in on goals. But yeah, St. Louis it does seem like they have a little bit more weapons. Adding Sabatka at the last second from the KHL was great for them. But overall, and Jake Allen,
he's out playing Devin Dubnyk big time.
Yeah, so didn't look too good last game. Maybe there might be a hole in the armor for next game, but so far he's looked amazing. And then on the East side, we didn't talk about the Senators and Bruins. I actually thought this is one of the better series. It's been very close. I expected a little bit more out of maybe Marchand, and Bergeron. I think they still have another gear and they're going to step it up, but might be too little too late.
Yeah, and they're matched up against Erik Karlsson, who's just been his game has risen so much more in the playoffs. He's incredible. He's so much fun to watch.
Oh my goodness. It would have been cool to see how amazing Erik Karlsson would have been as a sniper in a war, because he makes bullet passes to his forwards to give them 3-line passes, basically, not 2-line passes.
From his goal line to blue line, like just lasers. It's like, holy smokes, kid! Like, how do you see that?
I don't know, but those are amazing. He is a great player. He is outstanding.
Oh, and he plays a ton of minutes. The other night they were closing out the game, the game 4. He played a minute 47. I don't know the exact numbers, but he played like a minute 47. Took a 30-second break because of a timeout, and then played another 2 minutes.
Yep.
Like, that's unreal. To close out a game to win, like that is incredible. Like they say he's going to win the Norris because of his offensive side. Well, he's got some defensive side to his game too. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah, I'm watching Minnesota games, and I'm seeing Suter barely get off the ice. But then you watch Carlson; he's doing the same thing with outstanding offensive skills overall. He's unbelievable, Carlson.
Yeah,
just insane. I think that's it. I think we mentioned pretty much every team, every series, right?
Yes, we did.
All right, so let's get into the underrated picks. My number 3 is the guy I was thinking about picking. Paul made me. I was leaning on either Ryan Kessler or Rickard Rakell, and Rakell's looked very, very good and is still underrated for the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. Mighty Ducks, that's right.
So you went with Kessler over Rakell.
Over Rakell. And I was thinking about Rakell just because he's been great all season. He has a lot of goals. But, Kessler, again, he's very gritty and he's usually good in the playoffs. But, yeah, Rakell has looked excellent for the Ducks.
He's got 5 points. That's not too bad.
Yeah, he's looked very good. And, again, the Ducks aren't a big, explosive offensive team, so 5 points is very good. Who do you have as your number 3?
Oh, putting me on the spot. I didn't do a list, Peter.
All right. If you want, I can do mine.
Yeah, let me think about this for a few minutes.
All right, my number 2, Paul. I don't want to put him on my list at all. Do I have to put this guy on my list?
Yes, because I know exactly who, and he would be on my top 3. I'd probably put him number 1 right now.
Oh, I hate this guy. Just say his name, Paul. I don't want to say his name.
Tom Wilson. So good.
So bad. He's so bad. Yeah, he's on my list. Wilson I said his name. He's been playing outstanding for the Capitals. Not only a physical force and an agitator, he scored some big goals. Game number 1. Yeah, maybe Anderson could have had it. But it was just an unpredictable, and it was a good shot. It wasn't maybe super fast, but it was right top corner, basically. He scored that big goal. And then he comes out and scores 2 goals last game. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, he's been good. And then my number 1, I wasn't sure. I wanted to pick Clark MacArthur, and I think he's been a good story piece for the Senators, and he's helped them in that aspect. But as well, Craig Anderson, both of them are my number 1s. So underrated. They're doing such a good job for the Senators. Anderson all season when he's played, and now so far in this playoff series. It's such a beautiful story to hear, an inspiring one for the Senators and their fans, and these 2 guys playing for them. So, congratulations for the Senators so far, playing so well. And these guys are unheralded for sure. Paul, have you made a list, or are we going to continue?
I've got 2 guys. One is Tom Wilson. I have to also mention him because, yeah, he's had an incredible series so far.
Continue.
And my other one is Bobby Ryan. This guy was fed to the dogs all regular season. He's now got 5 points, 3 goals, big goal last game in Game 4, the game winner. I'm saying Bobby Ryan, underrated. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks there's a lot of mock drafts that have Bobby Ryan going to the expansion draft.
Yeah.
So, the way he's playing right now, I don't think they're going to let that happen.
It's tough. I think you stole I was thinking Bobby Ryan, wasn't I, before we started recording? All right. Okay. And again, we will talk more playoffs, of course, next week. But we will talk about our top 3 picks at the current moment, probably after the first round, for MVPs of the first round of the NHL playoffs. So stay tuned for that next week. Paul, what is the Jablam Junior Hockey update?
Oh man, there's so much junior hockey going on right now. I could probably do a full episode of just talking about junior hockey. Like there's so much stuff going on. Let's just start off with the 3 undefeated teams in the first 2 rounds. St. John's Sea Dogs 8-0, Charlottetown Islanders 8-0. The Sea Dogs are led by Thomas Chabot, just playing unreal. The Charlottetown Islanders are led by Daniel Sprung and a guy named Philip Chalapik, who is an Ottawa Senators prospect. So they're probably going to lose a game sometime in the third round. Then you got the Peterborough Petes, who lost their first game tonight against the Mississauga Steelheads, who are deep. The Steelheads, you look up and down the roster and you're like, yep, I know him. Yep, I know him. And when you know the guys, you don't even have to look them up. You don't even have to question who they are. That means it's deep. Like Spencer Watson, 300 points in the OHL. He's unbelievable in the O. He's a LA Kings prospect. He leads his team 19 points in 12 games played. And then they got the two Devils prospects, Michael McLeod, who's playing unreal. I think he got 2 goals tonight. Nathan Bastian. And then they got draft eligible guys like Owen Tippett is draft eligible. Nicholas Haig is draft eligible. And staying on the topic of draft eligible guys like Jason Robertson, there's been so many guys that have just been playing lights out in their draft year. It's impressive. And then you got like an overager in the WHL like Tyler Wong, 22 points for Lethbridge, who probably shouldn't be moving on to the third round, but they've played 2 7-game series, and basically Tyler Wong's carried them through every single game series. Tyler Wong is the man in Lethbridge right now.
Wow.
And then you got the Mem Cup favorites, Regina Pat, Sam Steele, Anaheim Ducks prospect, and Connor Hobbs are just playing lights out. Like I said, Peter, I could just go on for days about junior guys. And then the under 18s are happening too, so not even playoffs, but under 18 quarterfinals happened today. Canada got beat out by Sweden. Russia's won their game in overtime. United States won their game close at the end against Switzerland. Nico Heischer basically kept Switzerland in the game once again, just like in World Juniors, and he's going number 1. He's number 1 overall. Yeah, Nolan Patrick is
dropping. Yeah,
he's kind of fallen off, and Miro Heiskanen from Finland's kind of moving up. He's a defenseman. He's almost leading. I think he's 1 point back in the top 10 scoring at the under 18s. Miro Heiskanen, keep him. He might go to Vancouver this year if they're picking second or third overall. They might need to fill that Triamkin and Larson role. And Sweden beat Canada, like I said, 7-3. Canada did not show up today. It was brutal. Their under 18 team did not look very good.
Yeah.
Which is not looking so good for World Juniors next year, but everybody's caught up to us. We were the team to beat every year at the World Juniors, and now the rest of the leagues have caught up, and the states look good. It's not looking good for Team Canada. I'm putting it out that I don't think we're gonna have a good World Juniors next year.
Oh, say it ain't so, Paul.
Sorry, the goaltending. Our goaltending is key, and we're not developing like we used to.
We're our French goalies. Come on, guys.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that's it for this episode. Paul, maybe you want to write a little blog about some of these junior matchups now?
I'm actually going to put one out tonight. So by the time you listen to this, you can see my playoff predictions for the next round.
Nice. Perfect. And that's it for this episode then. Stay tuned. Next episode, we're going to be previewing probably the second round matchups. We will be naming some MVPs of the first round of the playoffs. And then, of course, maybe some other stuff. That's it for this episode. And again, please go to jablamhockey.com. Rate, review us if you can on iTunes. Subscribe to us. We're also on YouTube. And follow us on Twitter at jablamhockey or Paul or myself. And check out the game notes while you're listening to the show, especially for the trending now stuff. Some cool stuff, especially that crazy Patrick Kane video. All right, later.
Bye.